And we are live from the Brenner Family Field for week 4 of St. Joe's football. I'm Ben Chowder, joined by Saketh Kodori. Saketh, it was a bit of a delayed start we had there, but St. Joe's had a massive drive, two huge runs by Amari Jones and JoJo Huntley. But unfortunately, at the end of that drive, on about the 1 or 2 yard line of Elizabeth, they fumbled the ball, and it's Elizabeth's football right now. So with that momentum going all the way up and crashing down, I think that has a significant impact on this St. Joe's team.
Obviously, momentum's a huge factor in any game, but especially these Falcons, they've been thriving off of, fan noise, even if it's the opposing team. So we'll see, what kind of impact that has later in the game. But I'm fairly confident that the Falcons will be fine.
This Falcons team has been rolling all season long. 3-0 is St. Joe's. It's a pass here by Elizabeth. It's just a little too long there by Vito Tropiano. That'll make it 4th down for Elizabeth. This St. Joe's defense has showed out the first 3 weeks, and it continues to do so here.
So Ben, obviously the Falcons have been rolling, 3-0 start to the season. How do you think, that compares to an Elizabeth's team as we go further into this game?
I would say Elizabeth has played slightly tougher opponents. They've beaten Plainfield, and they've lost to Hunterdon Central and Westfield. I believe St. Joe's is the better team here today. Don't want to jinx anything for the Falcons. So the punt is off. It's going to be Jeremy DeCaro on the return. Nice return there by DeCaro. It looked like he stepped out of bounds, but like you were saying before, I think Elizabeth is underrated. They're not a 1-2 team like their record shows, but I still do think St. Joe's is the better football team here today.
Yeah, and just back to that play, obviously DeCaro is one of the best players on this Falcons team. How do you think he's going to be utilized in this game as what we call a Swiss Army knife?
Well, Saketh, we interviewed him a couple weeks ago, and he's more of just an athlete for this team. He's a receiver. He's a running back. He's an incredible safety on the defensive side as well. So really, just any way St. Joe's can manage to get him the ball, and putting him at punt returner is another way to get him the ball. That's just the type of player he is for the Falcons.
Yeah, and we always make these NFL comparisons of JoJo Huntley to Deebo Samuel, but there's multiple Deebo Samuels on this team, and for that matter, there's even like a Taysom Hill, I'd say, and Christian Maglicano. So we'll see, how he's used. But Falcons have been pretty creative with how they use their players this year.
DeGennaro in the empty set. And the pass is going to go to Maglicano. That Taysom Hill of this offense. And it'll be a near first down, about an 8-yard in route there for St. Joe's. This Falcons team is coming off a 39-19 win at Union last week. They're the 5th ranked team in the non-public A division. This is a completely different St. Joe's football team than what we've been used to ever since they were reintroduced.
Yeah, and Ben, we talk a lot about these skill players, but how dominating has our offensive and defensive line been this year?
The offensive line, I think you could see it, just the holes. Obviously, the running back core we have is great, but they would not look as great if they didn't have the holes that this offensive line was creating. And I mean, on the defensive line, I'm sure we're going to get to see them after this drive. We got Ben Masella, you got Dan Bellavia, who's having an incredible year. 4 sacks already on the season, 2 last game. Magliacano, who leads the team in tackles for loss. It is a very talented defensive line for St. Joe's and a very underrated offensive line as well for the Falcons.
Yeah, and back to Dan, he's at 5 sacks of the year, and we were talking to him earlier about his goal of 10 for the season, and we had an interview with him earlier this week, and how confident did he look in the scheme?
He seems super confident. I was asking him before and after the interview about some of the powerhouses in St. Joe's, and he was saying Ben, I think we really have a chance against some of those teams when those state playoffs come. So this is a very fun St. Joe's team, very senior heavy. That just makes this year all the more fun.
Yeah, and back to your point earlier this year, this is arguably the best St. Joe's team we've had in St. Joe's history. So what do you think that adds to the Falcon flock and their excitement about this season?
Real quick, we're going to get a drop back from DeGennaro, and it's going to be a huge sack for Elizabeth. Kind of a 7.5 minutes left to go, and after that big play, sorry, Scott, I couldn't really hear your question. What was that?
I was just, pointing out the fact that this was, one of the best Falcons teams we've had ever. So how do you think, the crowd participation and the noise would be, considering all that?
I think having more students at the games, obviously you're going to have the parents, which is awesome to see, but having the students really bring the energy can really have a huge impact on this team. So hopefully we get more students to the games than we are right now. And I think that's a big impact, especially come playoff time.
Definitely. And back to the students thing, St. Joe's will be playing their first under the lights game at home. So what do you think? You know, how will the Falcon flock impact that game?
Well, it's actually going to be an end around there by Huntley on a 2nd and 23 with a face mask against Elizabeth. So that's a huge flag for St. Joe's. Like you were saying before, we've talked about it a couple of times now. That Friday Night Lights game is going to be one for the history books. It's the first ever Friday Night Lights here at the Brenner Family Field. And I can only imagine these stands are going to be packed full of screaming St. Joe students and possibly some alumni.
So it looks like the Falcons will be moved up to the 47-yard line of Elizabeth.
Yeah, it was JoJo Huntley on that end around there, and it was just going absolutely nowhere. But on the tackle, his face mask was grabbed. So that's going to be a first down for St. Joe's on a 2nd and 23. Massive for St. Joe's. DeGennaro under the center, no wide receivers, bunch set. Daniel DeGennaro, the pitch out to Amari Jones. Jones speeding off to the right. Amari Jones bullying a defender and getting very close to the first down. Should be about a 2nd and 1 or maybe even the first down for the Falcons.
Yeah, and a huge part of this Falcons team has been the run game, not just with one guy, but with 4 or 5 guys. And I think that opened up, passing lanes, play action plays for Daniel DeGennaro. So I wouldn't really be expected if we see a play action pass right now.
Yeah, what I've kind of noticed with the St. Joe's team is that when one of those running backs, either Amari Jones, JoJo Huntley, or Jeremy DeCarlo, really take the lead in the backfield as the running back, the other two seem to pick it up on the receiving side of things. Last game, Amari Jones had 2 rushing touchdowns, and Jeremy DeCarlo and JoJo Huntley seemed like the number 1 and number 2 receivers for the Falcons. DeGennaro is going to roll out left. Pass is almost complete to DeCarlo. It was behind him, would have been a tough catch, but could have been a catch.
Maybe it's a good thing that he dropped it because he looked like the defender was right there, ready to take the carry out. So
it looked like it could have been a blessing in disguise right there, but obviously Jeremy DeCarlo was going to want to have that one back. So will DeGennaro. And something else we've seen, I don't think we've seen it at all this year. Elizabeth actually brought their own marching band to this game. So that's actually a pretty cool thing to see on the other sideline there.
Yeah, definitely interesting, but good on Elizabeth. They brought like a couple buses out here full of kids. So, they're doing their part trying to get the crowd juiced tonight.
Yeah, it definitely brings more energy to the game. It's going to be a 1 wide receiver set with Magliacano out to the left. DeGennaro going to roll left. It's a medium pass over to DeCarlo. That'll be a first down for the Falcons. Jeremy DeCarlo on the out route catch there.
Yeah, and we talked about play action, but Daniel DeGennaro has also been really good at those run pass option plays. He's really made good decisions this year so far and hasn't really thrown too many 50-50 balls or picks. So, that's something you'd like to see if you're a Falcons fan.
Yeah, and something I've noticed too, it seems like DeGennaro is more comfortable in this offense, especially regarding his very first game in St. Joe's this season. Jones on the inside handoff. It's going to go nowhere for the Falcons. Got about 5 minutes left to go in this first quarter. Score is still 0-0, but St. Joe's making a decent push here at around the 10-yard line.
Driver number 5, JoJo Huntley. Stop by number 1, Jaden Canello.
It was Jaden Canello on the stop there for Elizabeth. Has 20 tackles on the year for them in just 3 games.
So usually in these red zone territories, we see more of Jeremy DeCarlo or Amari Jones. So who do you think is going to get the ball in this scenario?
Well, someone's going to get the ball through a pass here. DeGennaro with a deep ball, looking for JoJo Huntley, but a little too far. That would have been one of those 50-50 balls he brought up before. And obviously could have been lucky that it went overboard, but maybe JoJo Huntley makes that play. We've seen him make it before. But nonetheless, that's going to be an incomplete pass for the Falcons. But, I mean, really, Saket, with how many weapons this team has, you can hit whoever you want. You got Amari Jones as the bell cow back kind of guy. Magliacano, you could just toss it up there like a Calvin Johnson type almost. And then you got JoJo Huntley and Jeremy DeCarlo who make plays after the catch. So it's whatever strategy you feel is best right now for this offense.
Yeah, and another thing is we see JoJo Huntley and Jeremy DeCarlo used a lot in the passing game, but we don't really see Amari Jones getting those in fantasy, what we call PPR points. So,
yeah.
So do you think that's all planned, or what do you think about that?
I think it is. I think Jones has some very good speed for the high school level. But I think he's more of a bruiser type of guy, more of a run through you like a Nick Chubb kind of guy. And then you have DeCaro and Huntley, who are just so shifty. Even if they're not that fast, they just get past defenders so easily. I think those are the guys you want out, lined up in the slot and at the wideout. It's going to be a timeout here. Got about 4 minutes remaining in this first quarter. St. Joe's. We are back after that timeout break. It's going to be DeJaneiro dropping back in the pocket. Pass was not a great read there by DeJaneiro. Threw it into heavy traffic. 3 Elizabeth defenders surrounding it, looking for Amari Jones.
Coverage on the play by number 11, Diane DeWalt. And the Minutemen will take over on downs.
And that was 4th down, so Elizabeth is going to take over once again deep.
Now, some people still, are of the category that you have to punt it or kick a field goal on every 4th down. But I think, I really like Coach Tracy's decision to try and set a tone and try to get some momentum going and go for it on 4th down.
I always loved going for it on 4th downs, whether it be high school, college, or NFL. I always think it's just the better play, especially if you have confidence in this offense, which St. Joe should.
So it looks like Vito Tropiano in the backfield.
It's going to be a handoff there for Elizabeth. Some good blocking there, but nothing to it. Theon Grimmaud on the carry there for the Minutemen.
Guard by number 11, Theon Grimmaud. Top on number 12,
It's going to be 2nd and 8 after the tackle there by Bellavia.
14-yard line.
Tropiano, 4 wide receivers out to his right. Tropiano's pass is complete, and it's a big play. Leonicio Remigio. About a 45-yard gain there for the Minutemen.
And it looks like Omari was fast enough to track him down, or else it looked like that was really going to go all the way to the end zone.
Yeah, that was a scary play for the Falcons and a great play for the Elizabeth Minutemen, and finding their main target, it seems, this season in Leonicio Remigio. Has 10 catches, 133 yards, and 13.3 yards per catch. All of those lead the team.
Man, I can't get over how Omari just tracked that guy down. He caught up about 10 yards at least.
Yeah, that was an incredible show of athleticism and speed there by Jones. It's going to be another screen pass to Remigio. Doesn't really go anywhere. Like Tyler Colonna on the tackle there for the Falcons.
Yeah, and he's been great as a corner for these Falcons. I think he has 3 interceptions this year already. 2 interceptions, sorry. So he's definitely been one of those silver linings for the Falcons in that secondary.
He's really been impressive, especially being a junior on this team, so he still has a year to grow after the season. It's going to be another pass to Remigio, and he is off to the races once again for the Minutemen. And once again, Amari Jones has to come up and make the tackle. But nonetheless, Elizabeth is in the red zone at the St. Joe's 10.
And Ben, we've seen a lot of times this year where the Falcons go down in the scoreboard early, and after that it's just pure domination. Do you think it's one of those moments, or are we going to see a close game for the first time this year?
I think we actually might be getting a close game. Like I said before, Elizabeth is not as bad as their record shows. They're really an impressive team in my eyes this year. It's going to be another handoff there to Grimmaud. And it's a good one. About a 4 or 5 yard gain for Elizabeth. But yeah, I could definitely see this one going down to the wire, which St. Joe's has not seen much of this season. So it'll be exciting to see how they handle that. Tropiano under center. QB sneak. And it's a good stop by St. Joe's. Scorpiano taken back to about the 2-yard line. About a minute and a half left to go now in the first quarter.
And again, it looks like Dylan Campanella is getting in some of that action in the defensive line this year. He's a transfer coming in, so I wasn't really sure he was going to be heavily utilized. But you know, he's been getting some red zone defensive looks, and late in the game, last game we saw him in the offensive line. So
yeah, especially when you're going against an offense that's going to be running those QB sneaks, maybe some of those halfback dives. You want a guy like Dylan with the size he has to be able to try and fill those gaps and really make a difference in situations like this, and they did so just right there. It's going to be another timeout. We'll take a short break and be back for Elizabeth on the St. Joe's 2. We are back after that timeout. 3rd and 3 for Elizabeth on the St. Joe's 3-yard line. Remigio, no wide receivers. It's a bunch set. Heavily expecting a rush here, and it will be a rush, but a massive tackle by Ben Masella.
So now it's 3rd down with 3 to go. You think they're going to try and power it in with another run?
I think they should. Just being 3 yards away, I think you have to. Maybe you toss a pass here, go for the unexpected, but I don't think a field goal is worth it when you're this close. It'll be another rush for Elizabeth and another stop for St. Joe's. The Falcons making a huge defensive stop, and their offense is going to run back on the field. What a showing by the Falcon defense there.
Yeah, we just talked about Dylan Campanella, but he's been really great so far as a run stuffer. So Falcons, got another lineman, and this line is just looking stacked this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent on that defense, especially that front 7 and the D line, like you just mentioned. We got guys in the edge like Magliacano and Bellavia, and you got Campanella, you got Rodney Fanning, Tooley on the inside. It's a dangerous D line this year for St. Joe's.
Yeah, and I talked to Dan Bellavia earlier this week about what's his favorite move to use in the D line, and he just likes ripping that lineman under him and just kind of like jumping over them and getting right to the quarterback. So
definitely the hard count by De Janeiro. Looks like it's going to catch the Minutemen offsides. Massive play to get St. Joe's out of a dangerous area. They were backed up against their own end zone, but a bit more comfortable here on their own 10-yard line.